Hello, friends. On July 20th, 1969, the lunar module of the Apollo 11 mission landed on the moon. It carried astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. After landing, Neil Armstrong attempted to open the hatch to step onto the lunar surface. Opening the hatch wasn't easy due to the high pressure, but with some effort, he successfully opened it. Then, in his heavy spacesuit, he tried to descend to the moon. The exit space was not very large, and accidentally, he hit the top, breaking off a piece of the lunar module. Neither of them realized this immediately, as there was no air to transmit sound. The broken piece turned out to be the ascent engine arming switch. Without this switch, the lunar module couldn't lift off again, and they wouldn't be able to return to Earth. Unaware of this, Neil Armstrong stepped out and became the first human to set foot on the moon, declaring, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." But did this really happen? Over 50 years have passed since then. Many people refuse to believe that humans ever went to the moon. Some theorists claim the entire Apollo 11 mission was staged by the United States, filmed on Earth to deceive the world. Questions like how the flag waved in the absence of wind have fueled conspiracy theories. What's the truth? Let's delve into this story in today's video. 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed. Friends, you'll be surprised to learn that the real reason behind the Apollo 11 mission was a war. Specifically, the Cold War between the USA and the Soviet Union. Both nations were engaged in a space race. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, making it the first human-made object to orbit the Earth. The US government was stunned to see the Soviets leading. A few months later, in 1958, the US launched its own satellite. However, 3 years later, in 1961, the US faced another blow. Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first person in space, outpacing the Americans yet again. Just a week later, US President John F. Kennedy wrote a letter to the Vice President on April 20, 1961, asking how they could surpass the Soviets. Could it be by putting a laboratory in space, or sending a man around the moon? Are we working on current programs around the clock? If not, why not? He asked if there was any space program that could quickly achieve significant results and put them ahead in the race. Soon after, it became clear that the next big step would be to send humans to the moon. On May 25, 1961, in his famous speech, Kennedy promised the world that before the decade's end, they would send humans to the moon and bring them back safely. This was a monumental declaration, especially considering it was 1961, an era without smartphones, the internet, or GPS technology. Computers were slow and primitive, yet he made this promise. Over the next 5 years, he allocated $7 to $9 billion in additional funding for space programs. NASA was entirely focused on achieving this goal. Months later, testing began. Rockets, command modules, heat shields, and propulsion systems were rigorously tested. Between 1963 and 1967, several uncrewed missions were conducted. However, tragedy struck during the Apollo 1 mission in February 1967 when a fire